Hello and welcome back around the bonfire. It's a pleasure to have you here on what was a pretty beautiful Chicago Wednesday. Maybe a little bit up and down, not unlike the Chicago Fire FC, who we gather around our proverbial bonfire to discuss today. As always, joined by simply the best in the business, the man with the Koimir hoodie and the men in red hat, seemingly every time I see him, Mr. Matthew Shableman. Matthew, how are you? How are you feeling, brother?
I'm good. I know people listening to this can't hear this, but I wear the same hoodie to every recording, a hoodie that eventually will be available to the public, but we're not there yet. But I'm good. I'm glad it was nice out because naturally I didn't leave my house today. So I'm kind of not manifesting, living vicariously through all my friends and enjoying the good weather.
Matt, I think they can hear it. I think the problem is they can't see it.
That's so true. Good point. You can't hear it because it's a sweatshirt, and you also can't see it, but it's sick and it'll be available soon. I'm doing good, John. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm all right. I kind of hoped you had multiple of those, to be honest. Turns out it's just one.
I
As
do.
you
I have
may,
one. You want it?
oh, sure. I just meant like that you were not just wearing the same one over and over,
Oh yeah, we don't
but
talk
like,
about that. Continuing on.
Matt doesn't know what
uh,
one is. Don't worry.
anyway, yeah, share this with a friend and maybe Matt will give you a Koimir hoodie. Who knows? Um, as you've already heard, we're also joined by our illustrious stat man, fun fact guy, and all around everything else, DJ. How's Florida holding it down, DJ?
I think it was like 85 today, so I'd say summer has begun, which means that pretty soon mosquitoes the size of my head will appear.
That is an
And yeah,
exaggeration. DJ's head is not that small, everybody. He has a normal sized head, if not slightly
that's how
larger than
big the
normal.
Yeah, I
mosquitoes
was
are.
gonna say
No,
slightly larger head.
that's how big the
Yeah.
mosquitoes are.
What do you wear? Like a
God
seven
damn.
and seven eighths in a hat? What's going on over there? Anyway,
I don't even know what size hat I have.
what kind
I
of
have a
grown
hat
man?
that someone
Anyway,
gave me like 10 years ago. That's all I know.
we're moving on. Thanks so much again for being here, putting up with us and the people we are. We're here to talk a little football, but first, just a touch of news. Today, as of recording, was the final day of the MLS transfer window, and as of recording, no moves from Chicago Fire FC, which was not unexpected. No real GAM to give, no real roster spots to speak of, at least for international players. So was not expected. Team was not expected to make a move, and as a result, did not. That said, still some movement on the roster front. Per Joe Chats today, Carlos Terran, Leonardo Barroso, and Romani Kwame were not in training with the team. That's Jonathan Dean, Sam Rogers were both full participants. And we also had Jean Alpha Diouf, who was a mainstay for Chicago Fire 2, participating in training with the first team as well for, as far as I'm aware, the first time, even since the initial rash of center back injuries. So kind of an interesting profile there. A little bit older than Cups, a little bit bigger than Cups. We'll see if that's more an emergency situation and if he might make his first emergency call up, as it were. But we are more than anything here to talk a little bit of Chicago Fire FC versus Nashville SC as the Twitter Bowl of sorts, or maybe the Twitter Derby. We can call it the Twitter Derby, as Greg Berhalter and former assistant BJ Callahan face off in their first contest as MLS head coaches. Little bit of background on Nashville. Currently sixth in the East. They got a 4-1-4 overall record with 3-1-1 at home. Most recently coming off what was a battering against Seattle. And Matt, I know we were sitting next to each other at the game, and you leaned over and said, "Oh God, Nashville's getting beat. I don't love this." And I think that might be as good a place to start as any. How do you feel, general vibes, this Nashville team coming off a big loss, this Fire team coming off not as big of a loss, but maybe a more disappointing loss as they were at home?
Yeah, I mean, the reason I said that is because I don't like going into away games after teams get beat down, especially games that in reality Nashville probably were on par with Seattle talent wise. Actually, I take that back. Seattle's better, but whatever. Nashville
Excuse
got
me?
pounced. I know. I take it back. I wasn't thinking. I'm still getting into this, and that scares me a little bit. And what also scares me is, I'm sure we'll talk about this later, is the fact that DJ told me that we haven't won in Nashville ever, and the last time we got a point was 5 years ago, which I didn't realize was COVID, which was a really long time ago. So All that being said, I'd say the vibes are not great. I mean, if you look on paper, the Fire have not gotten a win in 4 games. Granted, they've been, four or 3 tough matches. Montreal, they probably should have won. And this is not exactly an easy one either. So the vibes are not great. Will that impact whether or not I think they're going to win? No, because that's not how I operate. But it's definitely going to be a challenge. Hani Mukhtar, like I mentioned last episode, always seems to have our number. And although he's not operating to the highest caliber he was when he was an MVP, I think, what was that, 2022? He's got
Yep.
some talent around him, and he's putting some stuff in the back of the net, which concerns me. But I mean, maybe this is the year. This is definitely a better team, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, a few
Yeah.
kind of quick hits, right? Hani Mukhtar, 1 assist, 2 goals on the year. Sam Surge, 1 assist, 2 goals on the year as well. I kind of tend to agree with you, Matt, just in the idea of you don't love going to someone's house after they got their butt kicked in what was pretty embarrassing fashion. I mean, Seattle scored 3 times in I think less than 15 minutes. I think all three as a direct relation of kind of bad Nashville errors, right? So don't love to see that. I think there's been a lot of up and down for Nashville this year. We've seen a little bit of disappointment since Walker Zimmerman left against Charlotte in that loss after a head injury, which, by the way, I don't believe we expect him to be back for this game either. I don't believe BJ.
Opportunity and bounce back opportunity for the boys in red, the men in red, excuse me.
Man, you just keep calling them boys in red. You just like cannot help yourself, man. Yeah, but
Cormier.
no, I think Cormier, Corbier. Yeah, no, I think you look at Fire score more goals. They also concede more goals than Nashville. To your point, Matt, kind of an interesting dynamic on the year, right? Just looking back at the results, starting from opening day, they drew the Revolution 0-0, which doesn't seemingly bode well, knowing what we know about New England. They lose to New York Red Bull, beat Portland, beat Philadelphia, crush Montreal, lose to Cincinnati. It's a very up and down. Losing games you should lose, kind of winning games you should win. A little bit up and down. So it'll be a good test, I think, for both sides, just in terms of how they're going to relate to each other and how they're going to find that equilibrium. We mentioned a little bit before the matchup, Greg Berhalter versus his former assistant, BJ Callahan. I think a lot has been made about BJ Callahan and his Gold Cup run that he kind of sealed off after Greg was unceremoniously let go. Or no, actually not unceremoniously let go. That was, correct me if I'm wrong, was that when he was not the coach, but before they brought him back?
Yep, that was the Nations League, actually. I think, if I remember
Yes,
correctly.
thank you, DJ.
I don't know. Listen, USMNT for the last few years has been nothing but a cluster. Okay, I don't remember anything accurately.
Yeah, I
Since
don't
the
know that
World
anybody
Cup, if
would
you
want
remember
to
who the
either.
coach is, then that's good for you.
Yeah, there you go. But anyway, knowing what we know now, I think the big thing we've talked about kind of week over week is this kind of seeming need for a spark. We hope to get that back with Brian Gutierrez. So far, it has not seemed to be the case as he's worked himself back to full fitness. So I'll kind of kick it, Matt, I'll kick it to you. General thoughts on where do you think that spark needs to come from? Where do you think it can come from?
The game against Cincinnati was there are too many times where guys are selfish when they don't need to be, especially Guti. Or they're not selfish enough when they need to be, especially Bamba. And there were at least 3 times where I visibly just looked at my computer screen and said, "Why aren't you passing to the wide open man right there that you can see is wide open?" So, full honesty, if Guti and Bamba can just get that under control, if they can start finding Kuipers in a good spot, then there's no reason why that shouldn't happen. They just need to actually communicate more.
Yeah,
And
and I
also
think
adding one other person on because otherwise Matt hasn't said it, and that's Gutman. He needs to find back the form that he had a few weeks ago.
Listen, all I got to say about Gutman, and I said this, I don't remember when I said this, but he's been the most consistent player. So for me, he's not what I'm watching because my expectations for him are already good, but I'm glad he's finally getting his flowers. I think that's the saying.
I think kind of two things. Like one, I don't agree that Andrew Gutman's been the most consistent player. I think that would 1,000,000% go to Jack Elliott. Um, in my estimation, at least. Um, I think DJ, it's a great point about making the extra pass, but balancing that with taking the opportunity when it's there. Um, you know, the lack of Walker Zimmerman, provided he doesn't play in this game, which, like I mentioned before, I was trying to find a little bit of news. I'd expect BJ Callahan to have his press availability tomorrow, so we'll likely find out. But I don't believe he'll be back. It doesn't seem like he's been in training. Um, I think there'll be opportunities there, right? That is mostly where Seattle kind of pounced on those miscues between the center backs. A lot of open space in the box for passes and crosses, and not necessarily the widest cross, but kind of right from that half area where Jonathan Bamba likes to operate, right from that half area where Philip Zinkernagel can really kind of infiltrate into with his dribbling. And so I think there's a big aspect to this game where you need to be able to take advantage of that defect, right? This is not a team that you should struggle to score on given the firepower you have up front. And I do wonder
Back to get it on goal consistently.
That's where
yeah,
I
I
think you
do.
need to see. Like I feel like you need to see Pineda step up and be basically that third center back at all times, even if
See,
he's not officially. But sorry, John, for cutting you off, but still.
no, you're good. No, I think, there is an aspect to this game too where who you look at where, how do I phrase this? You look at where Nashville generates their attack, right? Um, I want to say something like, out of their current starting 11, right? Um, Probably over 50% of their goal contributions have come from that left side. And then also, well, outside of Mukhtar and Surge, of course, if we're counting them as central. The right side of that attack isn't quite as dangerous. And I do think you'll benefit in a way from having. I like Andrew Gutman as a player. He has certainly proven me wrong in terms of what my expectations for him were, what my understanding of his level was. Um, but I think Omari Glasgow has fared well. He's got a really nice recovery speed. He's got a really nice ability to win the ball, and he's comfortable holding the ball in those half spaces, kind of creating opportunity for Zinkernagel to get a little more space. Obviously, I think we would all still start Leo Barroso. But I kind of like the idea, as strange as it sounds, that we're not getting as heavy of defensive pressure um, down the side that has Andrew Gutman and Jonathan Bamba, or offensive pressure, excuse me. Because I think they're going to be a little bit more susceptible. Jack Elliott's not going to have to work quite as hard, and he'll be able to kind of balance with Sam Rogers a little better.
Yeah, and like the one big fault that Andrew Gutman presents, which is pretty important for a left back, is he's not a great one-on-one defender. And on the contrary, like you mentioned about Amari, his defending for a winger has been incredible. And that's going to be really helpful because Daniel Lovitz and Kassem, who's I think has 2 assists and a goal now, like you mentioned, like are the primary threats. Andy Najar and Alex Mule on that right. Alex Mule is a decent player.
I think maybe that's where, right? If there's nothing in training that can be done, you got to shake the snow globe a little bit, right? And you can kind of best determine how to do that. Maybe you have that opportunity, if not this week, next week, when the team has the Open Cup game coming and you have an opportunity to rotate, right? And you can say, hey, I want you guys fresh without just feeling like players got benched. The other side of the coin, right? And then we'll kind of leave the Kellen Acosta discussion at this. I think it's valid to say he has not played his best. I agree. He has not played the way we would expect him to play. I don't think we get to hold that against him when we gave everybody else who played under Frank Klopas a pass. I was very low on Brian Gutierrez coming to the year, and all I heard was, he's so good, he's so good, he's so good. And obviously, we've all been impressed by his play this year. I don't mean you specifically, Matt. I mean generally.
Thank you. Just wanted to make sure.
But so much of this has been, well, we can't blame him. He played under Klopas. We can't blame him. He played, and apologies, Frank Klopas. But nobody seems to want to give Kellen Acosta the benefit of the doubt there. I do think he's still coming back from the injury. I understand the hesitancy. I'm not out on the guy, and I think we need a little bit of a spark, and that seems an obvious place to do it. We'll take that to kind of our last little bit here, and I'll toss to you first on this, Matt. Who's your, for good, for bad, for either team, who's your man to watch in this game?
I mean, it's got to be Hani. I hate not picking a Fire player, but Hani has haunted my dreams every time we go down to Nashville. And like we've talked about multiple times, multiple people have said it. He is not the MVP Hani, but he's still Hani Mukhtar, and he has our number. And I think as a Chicago sports fan in general, we should always be aware of athletes like that who are notoriously killing us. I'm thinking of Luis Ariz as a White Sox fan and guys like that. So he's the Nashville guy I would say I'm most worried about. And my pick to click, going back to the White Sox for the Fire, it has to be Jonathan Bamba. It has to be Jonathan Bamba. This is an opportunity of a lifetime, like you mentioned, going up against Daniel Lovitz. He's
Less very often, but it does happen in sports. My gut is telling me to go the other way, but my head is going to say 3-1 Fire. I think Hugo, Bamba, and Zinkernagel all have a chance to really feast here. I think Brian Gutierrez is back in the groove, and say what you will about Sam Rogers, he played well enough against two okay and one very good team on the road to earn us 9 points, right? I think this is a game that could easily swing in either direction, and it could just as easily end 1-1 draw. And I hate to be the guy that waffles like that, but that's just the truth of the matter. But if I'm putting pen to paper, I'll go 3-1 Fire. And I think I say it every week, but this might be the week we get a Sergio Orahel goal. We'll cross our fingers on it.
I also just want to say part of the reason that I am happy to hear that you predicted a W and I predicted a W is this is like the Super Bowl for our good friend Tactical Manager on X, and I really want him to suffer.
Yeah, please, Tactical Manager, not friend of the show, for reference.
Yeah.
No, I actually meant to mention this and forgot, so I'll add it in really quick. I do think you're telling me I had two guys who coached together for an extensive amount of time. Which one do I think is going to be able to take advantage of that? Greg Berhalter. Maybe
Berhalter's got his
BJ
number, dude. BJ's got nothing on
BJ Callahan
Berhalter.
is some secret genius. And like I said, he's proved me wrong this year so far, 100%. I did not think this was going to be a successful stint, and he's starting the year well. But you're telling me I get two guys who know each other very well, and I have to bet on one of them. It would be Greg Berhalter without a doubt. Shout out Greg Berhalter and all the cool people on Twitter who like Greg Berhalter, like us. Anyway, yeah. So please tune in for the Twitter derby this weekend. You never know. Maybe you'll see Matt and I chirping back at each other or hopping in a space or something like that. We haven't done that in a while. It might be a good time. Not to lock you into anything. Sorry, buddy.
It'll be a tough one for me, but I'm not opposed if I'm around. I'm up in Wisco, so.
Matt's just going to be locked to a chair. John's just going to be forcing him into the Twitter space.
Whoa, chill, DJ.
I did not like that imagery.
No fan fix on the Bonfire.
Fellas, anything we want to wrap with before we get up on out of here?
No, all I got to say is
tastes better when cold.
Hot take in general, but speaking of hot takes, and John, I'm stealing your thunder, but because it's on my mind and I want to remember it, the 30th of this month, 7 p.m., Hot Takes, youtube.com/meninred97. I'll be there. John will be there. DJ will probably be in the crowd like he normally is. He's a fan. Yeah, be there.
That was literally the next thing that was going to come out of my mouth. So thank you for saying that, man. No, absolutely. Yeah. As always, keep an eye out. It'll be Wednesday, April. Yeah, Wednesday, April 30th. It is April. I almost said August. Wednesday, April 30th, Hot Takes Live, back again on YouTube. So have your takes ready. Keep an eye out for the forum on Twitter. It's coming from @MIR97pods, or you can keep an eye on @MenInRed97 on Twitter as well. As always, stay tuned to the website. Good reporting there from Tim, from Alex, from Max. You can expect all the updates coming out. If you're listening on Thursday, you can expect to see some notes from the presser and from training during the day. And then obviously keep an eye out for the match preview Friday and some more details Saturday in terms of picks and all that good stuff. Thank you so much once again for joining us here around the bonfire. As always, it has been a pleasure to have you talk a little ball, and hopefully come Sunday we'll be celebrating a big Chicago Fire victory. But thanks again for joining us. I hope you'll have a wonderful evening for DJ, for Matt, for Tim, and Alan, who are not here today. Thank you so much for joining, and shout out Austin, our producer, as well. Have a great night, and come on, you men in red.
Come on, you boys in red.
Okay, I hate you.